everyone, my name is Erin Reed, and in this video, I will be showing you the functionalities, features, and affordances of the free software Microsoft Mathematics. To get the Microsoft Mathematics application, simply go to Microsoft's webpage and download the application onto your device. According to Microsoft's webpage, Microsoft Mathematics is a graphing calculator that plots in both 2D and 3D. The calculator can also do step-by-step equation solving and has helpful tools for students studying both math and science. So when you first come into the Microsoft Mathematics application, you will see the Worksheet tab. There's also a Graphing tab. And then over here, what kind of looks like a calculator is actually a bunch of different buttons. Different ones deal with different aspects of math. And so we have our standard one where we can put in variables such as x, y, and z. Maybe we need to do a square root. We can do that all here. For example, the calculus buttons deal with derivatives or integrals. We have statistics, and so we can do a data set, mean, median. We have trigonometry, so sine, cosine, tangent. Linear algebra deals with matrices. And then finally, if you have any favorite buttons, you can always right-click them and add them here. And then of course, underneath the buttons, we also have numerical values that we can type in and our operations. And so up at the top, we have our ribbons. So for example, we have real numbers, or we can even use complex numbers. We can switch between degrees and radians, which would be helpful when working with trigonometry. You can even change the amount of decimal places you want in your answer. So for example, if I typed 1/3 in, it gives me a bunch of decimal places. Let's say I want to just go to 3 decimal places. Type it in again, and now it stops at 3. For input, we are currently on the keyboard input where we can put in expressions. We could also use a writing input. We also have the equation solver. In the equation solver, it can solve one equation, or it can solve up to a system of 6 equations. Right now, let's try and solve one equation. So let's do 3x minus 1 is equal to 2x plus 3. I'll select solve, and now we see it here in our worksheet. And the solution is x equals 4. I can show the solution steps. And also, if I wanted to, I could plot it on the graph. And so now I see it here on the graph. I can see where over here is 8, so x is equal to 4, and that is where the lines intersect, which is also where the solution of the equation would be. Next, we have our formulas and equations. We have formulas and equations from all different fields, but let's say I want to pick a geometry equation. Pythagorean theorem looks good, and I want to solve this equation. For A, I'm going to set it to be 3. B, I want it to be 4. And I'm going to select enter. And we can see here, it solved and gave me C is equal to -5 and 5. I can see the solution steps using the quadratic formula. Or I can just see other options for solution steps. And so next in the tools is the triangle calculator. I can show rules used to calculate the triangle type or the altitudes and area. I'm going to select triangle type. Let's say I now have angles 30, 60, and it automatically fills in the 90. Let's say I know my side A has length of 6, and then it fills in the rest of my side lengths. Now let's say I know I have a 45, 45, and then 90 triangle. And see up here it says it's a right triangle, and it's also an isosceles triangle. Up next would be the unit converter. And so for our unit converter, we can do length, area, volume, pretty much any unit we can convert. I'm going to do area. I'm going to select square yards, and I want to know what this is in square feet. let's say I have 20 square yards, I can calculate that, and I get an output of 180 square feet. Next, let's look at the graphing tab, which has our graphing features. So we have equations and functions, data sets, parametric inequalities. I'm going to go into equations and functions. I'm going to remove these equations we had from earlier. I'm going to put in x squared plus 3x, x squared plus 3x minus 4. And I'm going to press enter and graph. And so now I can kind of see it on the graph, but not quite. So what I want to do is do the plotting range here. I'm going to say -10 to 10, and again, -10 to 10. Okay, and now I can see my graph a bit better. Now let's say I wanted to shade my graph where I covered all the values inside the parabola. I can use inequalities to do this. So I'm going to say y, and I'm going to use is greater than x squared plus 3x minus 4. I'll press enter, graph, and now I show all the data points for the inequality. Now, I really don't want that dotted line there. What I can do is go back in the inequality and change that to greater than or equal to, graph it again, and now I have a solid line, which represents greater than or equal to. So following that overview of Microsoft Mathematics, I think that the primary way that Microsoft Mathematics can be utilized in the classroom is as a speed and accuracy tool. And this is because it acts as a multifunction graphing calculator that allows for rote computation, evaluation, and solutions. Now I'm going to create a new page. No, I don't want to save the changes, so now I have a blank document to work with so I can show you an example problem of how to use Microsoft Mathematics. Now let's say you're a student in a Math 4 classroom. You're dealing with matrices right now. You're learning about addition, subtraction, multiplication of matrices. And let's say you're given matrices A, B, and C, and you're asked to evaluate specific expressions. So I think the easiest way I can use this calculator to my advantage is, instead of having to retype the matrices every time, I'm actually going to store the matrices. So I'll take a matrix and store it as a certain letter. So for example, for matrix A, it is a 2 by 2 matrix. I was given that we have -4, 7, 1, and 3. And I'm going to click the store button, store it as A, enter. And so now anytime I put input A, I'll get an output of this matrix. I'm going to check it, make sure I did my work right. Yep, I get that matrix back out. So I'm going to do the same for matrix B. I was given another 2 by 2 matrix with 2, -5, 0, and 6 for this matrix. I'm going to store it as B. Okay, and then finally I have matrix C. And matrix C is only a 2 by 1. And so we have 8 and 4, store it as C. And so now I have all my matrices that I was given stored, and so now I can start on evaluating the expressions I was given. So the first expression I am asked to evaluate is the expression A plus B. So when I enter that, we have A plus B, so the matrix A here that I entered, plus matrix B, which gives us -2, 2, 1, and 9. I also have the options of taking this matrix, and I can find the determinant or inverse of it. I can transpose it, size or reduce, but I think I'm going to move on to the next expression I need to evaluate. So the next expression would be b minus a. And that gives me 6, negative 12, negative 1, and 3. Now the next expression is actually going to be matrix multiplication. And I am asked to do A times matrix C. And that gives me negative 420. This makes sense. Matrix A was a 2 by 2 matrix. Matrix C was a 2 by 1 matrix. So that'll give me a 2 by 1 matrix. Next up we have scalar multiplication along with addition at the same time. We have 3 times b, so 3b plus 2a, and I get negative 2, negative 1, 2, and 24. And the final expression I am asked to evaluate is b times a, which gives me negative 13, negative 1, 6, and 18. Again, this matrix multiplication makes sense. My answer makes sense because I had a 2 by 2 matrix, multiplied it with a 2 by 2 matrix, so my answer should also be a 2 by 2 matrix. So right now I'm not quite sure how the calculator was able to get the answer for b times a. So let's see if we can get it to show the solution steps. So I'm going to go back up to the top. I'm going to select the matrix C for B. I'm going to copy and paste that in here. Multiply it by the matrix C for A. Paste that in there. I'm going to press enter. And this time you can see the difference B times A here versus actually doing the matrices, and now I can show solution steps. So this is showing the matrix multiplication, how they actually solve for it, and then how they reduce to get the final matrix. I can also probably do the same thing for any one of my other expressions that I had. I'm going to actually go back to the second expression I did, which was b minus a, but instead this time I'm going to copy and paste the matrices again like I did before. I'm going to say minus, this is matrix C A, and that's the great thing of having this input screen, and it keeps all this in our worksheet. We can always go back and reference stuff we've had before. So now I'm going to press enter. And look, we have the solution steps again and how they got their solution. Lastly, I'd like to say I hope you enjoyed this overview of Microsoft Mathematics, and thanks for watching.